Long ago, in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, one of the first civilizations in history, the Sumerians, flourished. They were amazing people to whom we owe many inventions and discoveries, such as the wheel, writing, irrigation systems, and even the very concept of time. It was the Sumerians who first began to build cities, create literature, and study the stars. The Sumerians arrived in Mesopotamia around 5,000 years BC. They did not identify themselves. The name Sumerians was meme invented by archaeologists. They referred to themselves as the black-headed, or Saggig, which simply meant man. Scientists are still debating where the Sumerians came from. Some believe that they came from the Iranian plateau, others, that it was their homeland. It was located in the Indus Valley or on the Arabian Peninsula. The boldest hypotheses even suggest an extraterrestrial origin for this mysterious culture. In their myths, there is mention of the island of Dilmun, where supposedly eternal life reigns, and there are no diseases. Some archaeologists believe that this could have been modern Bahrain, but no evidence has been found so far. The first Sumerian cities were Uruk and Eridu, the population of which numbered in the thousands. Uruk was not just a settlement, it was a true center of ancient civilization, home to temples dedicated to gods like Inanna, the goddess of love and fertility, and Anu, the god of the sky. It was in these cities that the Sumerians began to build monumental structures, manage river floods, and develop agriculture. The Sumerians became famous for their inventions. They were the first to invent the wheel, initially for the potter's wheel, and then for transporting goods. This was a real revolution for trade and construction. The Sumerians also invented cuneiform, the first writing system in history. Initially, they used simple drawings, but later they moved on to a more complex system where symbols represented sounds. This allowed for the recording of economic activities, chronicles, and of course the creation of literary works. Mathematics and astronomy were another pride of the Sumerians. They developed a counting system based on the numbers 12 and 60, and it's thanks to them that we divide an hour into 60 minutes and a circle into 360 degrees. The Sumerians were the first to start observing the stars, tracking the movements of planets, and creating calendars. This knowledge was important not only for agriculture, but also for religious rituals. Life in Sumerian cities revolved around temples, which played a crucial role in society. These massive ziggurat temples towered over the city, symbolizing the connection between earth and the heavens. They were not just places of worship, but also served administrative and economic functions. They stored grain supplies, made deals, and resolved disputes. The power in the city belonged to Inu, the high priest, but over time the title Lugal emerged, which means great man. Lugals were initially military leaders, but then they became rulers. The Sumerians created the first schools. Boys were educated at school, while girls were raised at home. Students studied writing, the basics of mathematics, and religion. The teachers were priests who passed on their knowledge to future generations. Sumerian literature left a deep mark on history. Their epics, hymns, and prayers became the foundation for later myths and tales. For example, the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the most famous works of antiquity, tells the story of the ruler of Uruk, who sought immortality and befriended the wild man, Enkidu. This epic mentions themes that later found their way into the myths of other cultures, including the biblical story about the Great Flood. The Sumerian religion was very complex. Each city had its own patron god, and the entire Sumerian pantheon was populated by numerous gods. They believed that the gods controlled the entire world, from the flooding of rivers to human destinies. The temples were not only places of worship, but also served as unique banks where the city's wealth, grain, jewels, and goods were stored. Unfortunately, the Sumerian civilization could not withstand external threats. Constant wars between the cities made them vulnerable. In the end, in the 24th century BC, the Sumerian cities were conquered by King Sargon the Great, the founder of the Akkadian Empire. But even after the fall, Sumerian culture continued to influence all of Mesopotamia. Today, it's hard to imagine just how great the achievements of the Sumerians were. They laid the foundation for subsequent civilizations, such as Babylon and Assyria. Their inventions are still in use today. We keep track of time, look at the stars, and it all started with the Sumerians. They left us not only artifacts and written records, but also the very idea that we can change the world through knowledge and technology. Moreover, the Sumerians were the first to start treating illnesses not just with herbs, but also with magical rituals. They believed that diseases could be banished through spells and special ceremonies. These early doctors laid the groundwork for the medicine of the future. Ziggurats, their majestic temples, were not only religious centers, but also served as unique storage facilities for the city's treasury, where wealth and grain supplies were kept. And of course, the Sumerians were the first urban planners. Their cities were planned with clear streets, canals, and public buildings. The Sumerians left us a tremendous legacy that became the foundation for all subsequent civilizations. Their knowledge, inventions, and myths have forever entered the history of humanity. These were people who, despite the difficulties, managed to create a civilization that left a mark that will never fade.